Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the My Off Life podcast. I'm your host, John Champ George. My co-host, Dennis Gunnar Metzler. How you doing, my friend?
Great, man. I'm excited to get into some of this today.
Yeah, you say great. But really annoyed with some things. Had a conversation this morning off camera. What the fuck is going on in the world?
I mean, it seems like no matter what, there's always something new, something stirring, something to get people excited, something to get people emotional, you know, whether it's what's going on with Diddy and all his bullshit, what's going on with Israel and Iran launching rockets. I mean, it's just, the news cycle is just continual and just constantly trying to get people in an uproar.
Yeah, so the Diddy thing, obviously very current event. R. Kelly was a giant deal. Not me, but many people loved R. Kelly and his music and whatever.
Come on, you got down to some bump and grind. You know you did.
Oh yeah, back in the day, in the day. Sure. But you know, the thing with R. Kelly and that was like such a giant deal and whatever, but it was only R. Kelly.
It was isolated.
Right? It was isolated to just him. He's this monster. He's this, you know, whatever. And rightfully so. Yes, he was absolutely a monster, whatever. What's interesting about this thing with Diddy is that, okay, he's a monster, sure, right? And we'll delve into some of the stuff that they're talking about and the things that are unfolding. But what's interesting about it is the really long list of high-profile celebrities that are attached to him, either as victims or as co-conspirators, as participants in his freak offs, as they call them, in his debauchery is what it is. And we've had some interesting I've had some interesting conversations with some people where I'm telling them the things that I'm hearing, and it's not hearsay. It's, you know, they're like people coming out speaking against these people, and it's household names, people that are beloved celebrities or whatever. And it's funny to see people defend them.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, today's October 3rd. So just a couple of days ago, I think it was, there was another lawyer coming forward saying that he has like another 120 victims just under him alone that are willing to testify in civil and criminal cases. So it's like, you know, R. Kelly was one, you know,
right.
One or two. There were a handful of victims with R. Kelly. You know, now you're talking about one lawyer having 120 cases that he's willing to file, and that's just under Diddy alone. You know, you got all the other celebrities that are attached to that, like you're talking about, who maybe initially started out as victims of his and then eventually turned into perpetrators, which is what it's sounding more and more like for some of these people.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, this is a brand new situation, brand new case, and there's a lot that's going to unfold and come out in court. So much of what we've heard is hearsay. But
yeah, allegedly, we
have
to throw
sure,
that in there. It's alleged, but there's, you know, with that many cases and that many people coming out, there's some substance behind it. You know, the feds don't raid your houses without probable cause,
especially when you're a high level celebrity.
Yeah,
with no, like, Diddy's not a guy like the feds raided Donald Trump's house. They did that for political reasons. That all of that 100% is politically driven and obviously a smear campaign and whatever. And it makes sense. It's not right, but it makes sense, right? Diddy's not attached to a political party. He's not, at least not publicly. He's not outspoken about, you know, whatever. So there's no motivating factor other than this guy is fucking garbage.
Yeah, victimizing people. You know, when you can turn a blind eye for so long, I think, you know, but when you have so many cases just building and building and building, and I mean, the 120 additional victims that just came up the other day, you got to think the initial raid on his house occurred, or with the house in Florida, I believe it was. Yeah. And then there was another house that was raided. This was months and months and months ago. So they already had, an overwhelming amount of evidence. You don't just go into a mega celebrity's house on a hunch, and when you talk probable cause from a law enforcement standpoint, you're talking about more likely than not that this happened. And the way it was taught to me in the academy was like, well, 51% is more likely than not. Mm-hmm. I'm guaranteeing you that they didn't go in on 51% of the evidence. They
for sure,
they probably were like, okay, well, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's nothing. But I'm sure the claims and the cases kept coming in, so they had to investigate. And when they investigated, you crack open Pandora's box, and you find some pretty freaky shit. So yeah. I think it's probably gotten to that point before they initiated the raids. And now, once those happened, you just got to look at how much more is coming out day after day with all these high value celebrities.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny to watch people. You and I were talking about this before. I've had conversations where, to me, a celebrity is just a human being, and I know that to you it's the same way. They're just people, right? And they have a job, and their job is to act, or is to produce music or sing or dance or whatever the fuck you do in the entertainment industry. And that's fine. And they have a shit ton of money and they have whatever, but they're still human beings, and they're still flawed, and they're still obviously capable of sin. But when you have that much money, that much power, that much status, that much control and leverage over people, you have to be able to govern yourself, right? And because you can just do anything you want. You have access to anything you want at any time that you want it. And I think that it's funny that the average person, when you take a household name like Matthew McConaughey or Reese Witherspoon or Will Smith or any of these people, everybody knows them and everybody loves them for the most part. The worst something somebody might say is well, I don't like Matthew McConaughey. I don't like the way he acts or something. That's whatever. But you take somebody like Will Smith. I've never heard anybody say anything negative about Will Smith until he lost his shit and slapped the fuck out of Chris Rock.
Right.
Which maybe there was more to that now, but he's one of the people on this list, and he's not only one of the people on the list at Diddy's house, but I've watched video and testimony from people talking about other instances where they were on set, walked in on him, getting fucked in the ass by whoever. I don't even remember.
Those are well publicized. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they've got audio recordings and eyewitnesses saying that they witnessed him doing this to other celebrities. So it's
right. And it's now that this stuff with Diddy's coming out, it's there are multiple people saying the same thing about Will Smith in different ways, different times, different places, and different people. You don't have that many people saying the same thing about you, and it's not true. Unless it's a giant conspiracy theory, but it would be only about you. Now this shit with Diddy unfolds, and the latest I heard, just speaking about Will Smith, I mean, there's a lot of people to talk about, but just speaking about Will Smith, and he's the one that I hone in on because he's probably on the list one of the absolute most wholesome.
Yeah.
He's been in so many. He was the rapper that didn't cuss, right? He was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah. He's in all these movies that are iconic and that everybody loves and are great. And he was a wonderful actor and all the things, right? I'm one of the guys. I was a Will Smith fan, And now it comes out that, okay, he's in all these homosexual relationships. Listen, if it's just Will Smith is a homosexual man,
whatever.
Live your life, whatever. Do your thing. Answer to God about that one. That's not my issue. I don't care. But some of the stuff that's coming out now with all this victimization and all these people that are attached to Diddy and all the victimization that happened at these parties and Will Smith is like intricately involved. And the latest thing and most disturbing thing that I've heard, and obviously I don't know, it's all going to come out again, allegedly, whatever. But his son Jaden Smith, apparently, Will and Jada gave him to Diddy.
And that's coming from like a news source you saw somewhere, like online or whatever.
Yeah, and it's also coming up again, allegedly. Whatever. Jaden himself spoke out on this and said, "Listen, here's something that I experienced, blah blah blah." And then you look back and you're like, "Oh man," because I remember like Jaden was just this kid, cute kid, whatever. He was like the Karate Kid and all that, and the latest ones. Well, now he's a young man, and the shit wrapped up with like his friend fucking his mom and that whole entanglement situation. Then Jaden started acting out. I know he was getting in some trouble. Like he was in the tabloids and in news and stuff. And everybody just kind of writes it off on like, oh, he's a young celebrity acting out, just like Justin Bieber. Like, oh, he's just being a dipshit. He's young. He's got a bunch of money. We were all stupid at one time, whatever. Now in hindsight, it's like, man, maybe there was more to it.
Yeah, and kind of to go back to one of the points that you made earlier, that they're celebrities and they got all this money, I mean, they are human, and humans are generally flawed. When they start out their careers, there's a certain level of excitement and fun and intrigue when they're just beginning, and, they maybe don't have a whole lot of money. And the way I kind of equate it to is like when I started out in law enforcement, maybe you in the military, when you start like getting into the shit, getting into the action, you're like, oh, this is fucking cool. Look at all this stuff that's going on around me. The difference between us is we didn't come from money, and we just had that level of excitement. And you're like, right. You get to a point where that kind of becomes numb to you. You're like, okay, we're just going to work. We're doing the same thing over again, Right. And I think when you have the option of money, the availability of money, and, to put them in a realm with all these celebrities and all this excitement and fun, and I'm sure there's plenty of things that go on that get them excited initially, and then it translates into, oh, it's just another Diddy party, or it's just another event, and like, well, what else can we do? And now you've got the money to explore those things. Maybe starting out as a Will Smith, starting out where he didn't come from the money and he got into that career in his late teens. He had to find himself. He had to figure out who he was, and he got to explore some of that dark shit. And having a child, now his son is born into this money, born into this celebrity life. So it starts that much younger for that person. So when you see him acting out in his late teens and early 20s, well, I mean, Will Smith started maybe doing that in his 30s and his 40s. So you're subjecting this younger generation and these kids of celebrities who become celebrities themselves to this sort of thing, and you get stuck with a situation like Jaden Smith and Justin Bieber and what they're going through right now. I mean, I feel for those guys. I feel for them because they didn't choose that. That's something that was thrust upon them. Yeah,
it's terrible, especially when, if you have somebody like Usher, for example, we'll bring Usher into it. Diddy had custody. He had parental what's the word?
Just parental custody, like I
want to say like parental
guardianship.
Guardianship. Thank you. I know it started with a G. Parental guardianship.
Sorry, we both have TBIs. So.
Yeah. Of Usher when Usher was young, and Usher himself has said, he was asked in an interview, would you ever let your son go to a Diddy party? He's like, hell no. There's no way. Yet. He then had, when Justin Bieber was a teenager, he had parental guardianship of Justin Bieber and gave him over to Diddy. And apparently that's kind of where the whole thing started. And, and it's horrible, dude. Like, yeah, it's one thing, kind of what you were describing a minute ago of like the lifestyle creep, right? Like, I remember being very poor, and I came from nothing at all. I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from anything. I had to make everything on my own. And I remember struggling very, very hard. And I remember thinking in my mind, like, man, if I made $30,000 a year, I'd be fucking doing all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be psyched. And when I did make $30,000 a year, I was psyched. And then I was like, man, I can, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I can do a little more, if I can whatever. And I remember thinking, man, if I can make $50,000 a year, I'll be balling. Like I'll have it made. And then when you make $50,000 a year, you know, like your lifestyle creeps, right? And that's a real thing. And it's the same thing with mentality of like that. We're talking about money. It's the same thing with sex, for example. So you're whatever. Sex is sex. Okay. You're having sex, whatever. Okay. Well, you start getting into some other shit, like
A little exploration.
a little exploration, a little kinkier stuff, whatever. And that's exciting. And that's, you know, whatever. And then when you step back out of that, and you're back to like normal sex, whatever that looks like for you, then it's like, it's maybe a little bit boring, right? And it's
Straight
like,
up,
oh
yeah.
man. And maybe that kinky thing that you tried or that you did, maybe that gets a little old. So like, let's step it up a little. Let's go a little more. And there's nothing at all wrong with that as long as it's you and your partner and your consenting adults
not
and
minors.
you're living your life. And all parties are willing and happy about this. Same thing. You bring a third person in, a fourth person in. Who gives a fuck? I don't care. Whatever. Live your life.
Yeah.
But again, as long as all parties involved are happy and consenting and good to go, and adults, obviously, then who cares? But that's a real thing, right? And it's what you're talking about. Like, they get bored when you have everything, when you have every car, when you have every piece of clothes, when you have every house, when you have all the money, you have all the status, everybody kisses your fucking ass everywhere you go. You know what? And you can have these guys and girls, like they can have any guy and any girl that they want ever, right? Like they snap their fingers and somebody will be with them. It's fine. And that's where it comes in. It's like, okay, but it's got to stop it at your moral compass. Like, where is your moral compass, right? I don't judge you. Live your life, have your fun, do your thing, but you know, make sure we're not victimizing everybody.
Yeah, and that's the problem though, because when you get that much money, when you're worth $1 billion or whatever, however much he's worth, at least $1 billion, it's like, you know, some of these people in their mentalities, they get to think that they're a god, that there's nothing on this earth that can touch them. That there's nothing that's out of bounds for them, you know. And you've fed all of your desires and all of the things that you wanted to do, and now there's maybe that thing that's outside of the box. There's that thing that's, you know, you're not supposed to touch because it's illegal and because it's damaging to people and because you're taking advantage of people,
right?
You know, but when you're worth that much money, it's like, you know, I think some of the times they go, well, fuck it, you know, who's going to touch me? I can, you know, I've got my island that I own that they'll never find me on, so I'm going to do whatever I want.
And that's if anybody even were to speak out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was part of his deal, was what that everybody's saying now is that there are multiple things that would happen, but basically some people are saying that we're victimized. They would go to the party, they'd get the invite to the party, they go to the party, they're just drinking and at a party. Right. And they're stoked to be there. They're having a great time. They're drinking, but they were drugged, and they were drugged intentionally, obviously, to make them more compliant to the things he would then make them do. Which obviously is fucking terrible. And this is guys and girls. So some of the stuff that's coming out is like, he was always known for being in heterosexual relationships. But he's obviously super gay, right? Yeah. Like he's obviously fucking a bunch of dudes, and I'm sure getting fucked by a bunch of dudes. And something that came out is that he would not only have sex with male celebrities and male escorts, but he would hire male escorts to have sex with the women that he was with. And like that video came out of him beating the shit out of Cassie in the hallway in that
Security
hotel.
Video.
Yeah.
He's like wrapped in a towel and he's going after her.
Yeah. So apparently what happened in that video, like what she says, her testimony is that it was him and her and a male prostitute in the hotel room. And basically he was big on like, And I know a lot of gay dudes that do this that are like, I actually had a really close friend that I found out later was ultra gay. But I always thought he was straight because he was like running through chicks.
Right.
But he was like using them for money, using them for different things, whatever. But anyway, and he did this very same thing. And what that thing is like, he would get the girl that he's with to go fuck dudes and then videotape it and bring it back to him. Or if he could like be there and watch, right, like a cuck, be there and watch and like jerk off in the corner. Apparently this is what Diddy was doing all the time. And in that video with Cassie, there's a male prostitute in the room, and the whole deal was the male prostitute was going to fuck the chick, was going to fuck Cassie. And it apparently did. Like, that was a normal, regular thing. And Diddy would just sit in the corner and jerk his dick off while watching this. And
sounds like a lot more fun than just fucking a chick. I mean,
what? Yeah, like,
what am I missing here?
To me and you, like, what are we doing? Like, I can't even fat dude like another dude. Listen, if I'm with a chick, I'm a grown adult and I'm mature and all that. I know, like, oh, you've had partners before me or whatever, but that alone drives me crazy. Like, I can't think about it. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I've never understood, like, how can you just sit there and watch your chick get fucked by another dude? But if you're gay as fuck and you're using this as an excuse and you're just watching the dude mainly, then sure,
maybe that's he's on top and you're just staring at his little leather balloon, popping up and down on this girl.
Who knows? Who knows?
But I mean, how far down the rabbit hole do you have to go to get to that point? Like, he's got to be so fucked up in the head, and I mean, I'm sure that obviously is not the thing that got him in trouble. That sounds like a routine Tuesday night to him, compared to some of the shit that you're hearing in the news right now. So how twisted and how fucked up does your brain have to be to get to the level that he's at, where you're roofing dudes and banging them and bringing minors into this thing? I mean, it just...
And apparently he would offer celebrities, like big name celebrities, male celebrities, millions of dollars to, Cat Williams. Everybody has heard Cat Williams' interview on the Shannon Sharp show, and he's come out and done a couple others, and he's been very outspoken about Diddy and about Hollywood in general, and the entertainment industry. But he said himself 4 times he was offered $50 million 4 separate times and had to turn it down 4 separate times. And when everybody's when everybody's listening to it, it sounds so outlandish and it sounds so crazy. You're like, there's no way.
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy, or he's just mad, or he's full of shit. Well, apparently Cat Williams was speaking on some truth.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody's looking at this like, oh, look at this scandal. It's so big and it's so far-reaching. And it's like, this is coming out now. Hollywood has been a thing for 100 years. How long has this been going on for? And I'm sure it started out probably innocently, like some swingers back in the 50s and 60s and shit. But look at how far we've come, because this is just what's public right now, and there's very few celebrities, I think, that actually stand up and speak out against this. It seems like you're getting more and more people who are throwing their name into the arena going, hey, look, I hung out, but I never did anything with them. I was at the parties. You're starting to see some of that with some celebrities, but how many people are just coming out or have been out in the past and been like, yeah, Hollywood, it's evil. Hollywood is a demon. And, there's very few of those people. And, they're unfortunately some of the least known actors out there because maybe they're not involved in some of these exchanges that...
That's right. Well, it gets deep with the conspiracy part, like you were mentioning. Like, I've heard through some of this that Diddy would drug people, fuck them, or get them to do whatever crazy shit. Who knows the limit? There's probably not a limit of the things that were happening.
Yeah, no.
And then, and he would record all of it and then use it as leverage against these people. One, you're never going to speak out because I've got the tapes of what I did to you or what you did to this child or what you did to so-and-so, the people imagine if you're, I haven't heard this, but two of the people I've heard on the list are like Will Smith and Kevin Hart. Let's just say you're Diddy and you've got a video of Will Smith blowing Kevin Hart. Let's just say, like, that's a lot of leverage for both life. Of them. Yeah, and these guys are going to keep their fucking mouth shut and they're going to do what you tell them to do. And they do, but the conspiracy part gets pretty deep because, what's the initial reasoning? Like, is it just Sean Combs' perversion and maybe delusions of grandeur and mental illness? No, I don't think so. I think that it's far, far, far deeper and far more than that. And I think it reaches far further than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look back in the past, and you've heard the stories like somebody went missing, and they were supposedly involved in a scandal with this celebrity, and that person just, they died. They had a car accident or whatever, but when you have so many people coming forward, like, you can't make 120 victims disappear.
Yeah.
And if you can, I mean, that's a scary individual right there.
And interesting you bring that up because a handful of people that were very close to Sean Combs did disappear. In that, three of them in particular that were coming out with books. All three of them were writing books, tell-all books about their relationships with Sean P. Diddy Combs. And weird. They just
all
disappeared.
Of a sudden, like I said, but when you have 120 new victims coming forward, it'd be real funny, or not funny, but real curious if 100 of them disappeared. Like, wow, scare the shit out of the other 20 for sure.
Yeah, man, it's kind of nuts. I'm really interested to see like, I just want to see who's on the list. But that being said, I wanted to see who was on Epstein's list as well.
I was going to say.
And we haven't seen that.
Yeah, so. I'm surprised Diddy hasn't been Epstein's yet himself. I mean, he's rubbed elbows with everybody.
Yeah.
With everybody. I mean, there's nobody, I don't think, who hasn't had a photo op with him, who can't be implicated in some way or another because he's been seen with them.
Just being at one of those parties looks fucking bad. It's it's not good. Just being seen at one of those parties obviously doesn't mean you did anything. Obviously doesn't mean you were one of the people drugged. Doesn't mean that, but
raises questions.
It raises, like, it's impossible that it happened to me or you because we were never cool enough to be invited to the party.
Yeah. Glad.
Not that I would have gone in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the things like with when you're starting to talk about the parties and the things that happen. Everybody's seen the video with Diddy and Bieber as a minor, and he's hanging out with them, and he's,
why aren't you answering my calls?
Well, no, even before that, where he's talking about, he's in my custody for the next 48 hours, and we're doing things we can't talk about. It's like, holy shit! I mean, it's right in your face at that time. And everybody's thinking, it's just tongue in cheek, but no, it's like, no, it's just tongue in his asshole is what it is. I mean, how could you deny it at that point? Once you're sitting here now in this moment and looking back, and again, hindsight's 2020. But when an adult is hanging out with a child like that and says and makes those statements, number one, as a parent, how the fuck are you letting your child hang out with this grown-ass man, and then you hear that man saying that about your child without going out there, ripping your child out there, out of that house and taking him home? How do you do that as a parent? To me, I mean, there's no amount of money in the world that would ever, I don't give a shit. I would live in poverty for the rest of my life.
Of course.
If it had to do with the welfare of my child or any of my children.
Well, you're not a fucking sellout.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's literally the definition of a sellout. Like, give up my values, my morals, my beliefs, my code, my whatever, for $1. And that's what that's what these people do. And
so
surprisingly, parents do it with their children all the time.
And it's so rampant. It's not like, these are isolated cases. And I think that's the thing that bothers me the most as a society is like, how many people in this world would be willing to do that? I mean, I know the people that I hang out with, the people that are close to me, I know they would never, but there's always that chance that somebody is potentially involved with something like that or would sacrifice their morals for financial gain, and it's just.
Yeah. And they, when I first heard that, everybody was making a giant deal about, Usher, Usher was victimized by Diddy when Usher was young and new in the industry and whatever. And then Usher had guardianship of Justin Bieber and gave 48 hours temporary guardianship to Diddy. And everybody's making a big deal about that. But what I was sitting there wondering was, where the fuck were Justin Bieber's parents? Like, why did Usher have guardianship of Justin Bieber in the first place? What are you talking about, guardianship? What do you what do you mean? Like, you're just going to write me a check for a few $1 million or whatever, and now you own my child? No, that's not.
But it's Hollywood.
Why would you have to have guardianship of my child in order to make a record with him or do whatever?
And would you believe it, if it wasn't Hollywood, if it is Hollywood, I mean, is there anything that you wouldn't put past some of those people out there? I mean, it's believable. I mean, out here where we're at in North Carolina, like somebody tries to buy my child. Yeah. Okay.
Well, unfortunately, in our line of work, we see the worst of the worst in people. And I know I've definitely come across, drug addicts that pimp out their child and sell their child or give their child to some fucking, some pervert for an hour or for a week or forever, I know I've come across that. I'm sure you've come across it, and it actually happens way, way more often than not. And those are always drug addicts, right? Those are always drug addicts that are doing it for the drug and whatever. But
it's an interesting parallel, though. I mean, you when it comes to human trafficking, you're looking at drug addicts who will sell their kid for a 20 bag, or some meth or some fentanyl, or you're looking at, celebrities and parents of celebrities who sell their kids for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's just a human behavior, really. It's not
selling your soul either way.
Yeah. Yeah. And victimizing people and making them victims for their entire lives, because as a child, if you're put through that, man, I'm sorry, you can go through any amount of therapy, but that's going to be with you for life. You're scarred and you're damaged for life. And it's not saying you're a bad individual by any means. You just had some really shitty circumstances and some shitty people around you. I mean, that's why I think more people need to be aware of these situations. They need to not turn a blind eye and go, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. It's not really happening. The minute you do that, you've submitted to the system yourself and you've said, yep, that's okay, without bringing up the questions, because it happens all around us. It happens in all walks of life, from the poorest to the richest.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame, man. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Interested to see how long Diddy sticks around, how long he's alive. Epstein didn't hang himself. and I'm sure it's funny listening to, again, Cat Williams was the first one I heard say this, but he's like, Diddy's going to snitch on every motherfucking body. So I'm interested to see if that happens. I'm interested to see. What I'm really interested in is let me back up. The only reason that I'm interested in the list is because I've known that, and you've known that for a long time, that Hollywood is full of a bunch of fucking evil.
Degenerates, perverts, yeah, all that stuff.
It's full of a bunch of evil. But people like, they idolize these people. It's like, man, it's just a human being. So, and probably a bad one. Obviously not all of them, but A lot of them.
A good portion of them.
Yeah, a lot of them.
More than 51% of them.
Yeah, and that's been my personal belief for a very long time. So I'm happy that it's coming out, because if it's going to be happening anyway, at least it needs to be exposed. So, and people need to stop idolizing these celebrities. But I'm interested. That's the only reason I'm interested in the list. But I'm interested in what's happening deeper also, because I don't believe that this has been like an ongoing investigation on Sean Combs. Like, I think that they have known for a very long time. When I say they, I mean the feds. I think they've known for a very long time what happens. I'm sure they have some hand in it, some part to play in it. And I'm curious as to why now.
Yeah.
Like when R. Kelly got busted for his shit, that was known as well by many, many people. So why was it sufficient at that time for him to be exposed? What were they distracting us from, right? The Epstein shit, what were they distracting us from? And now it's like each one has gotten bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Like the Epstein thing. R. Kelly was a giant fucking deal. Epstein was far bigger.
Way bigger.
But that list never came out. That list was fucking squandered. He was killed. So, and now like nobody talks about it, obviously, because that's the way of things. People,
because we're on to the next one.
Exactly. So now that we're on Diddy, like, why? And this one's bigger. This one's bigger than Epstein because
many times greater.
Because it channels people's emotions, which is sad to say. Like Epstein to me was bigger because it involves so many underage girls. This one is bigger to the majority of people because it's so many celebrities are involved.
And I think the Epstein one was bigger to me because it involved so many heads of state and political figures and political icons, like people who are actually supposed to be in charge of shit, which probably they aren't, but they're just the figures who are in charge of stuff. So that one to me was bigger, and I want to know, like, who are the ones that are running our country that are involved with this, and who are the ones making the laws that are involved with this. So for me, that's bigger. I think for the general public, this one is bigger because everybody, well, I don't want to say everybody, but so many people find a connection with celebrities because they're in our movies, they're in our music, they influence every aspect of life. And, for somebody who's maybe not as, I don't want to say intellectual, but I feel like the intellectuals would be more involved with the Epstein one, and the people who are not the intellectuals, who are just like going on about their daily lives, fat, dumb, and happy all day long, they want to know, was so-and-so, who I've seen every one of their movies involved, was this musician involved with it? Because then I'll just, that'll ruin my life.
I love Kevin Hart, and there's no way that wholesome Kevin Hart, the comedian, he's in all these funny movies, and he's a stand-up comedian. He's so funny and made me laugh. There's no way he could be a bad guy. Like,
yeah, I mean,
yes, there is actually.
Yeah, and you see, like, the Clintons were involved with Epstein. Well, who cares? They were already shitty. Like, I care.
I fucking care. Yeah,
I care because those people have their fucking tentacles in so many areas of the government, even though they're not involved with the government anymore. I mean, they're part of the show,
Yeah.
So I think that this one just seems like a bigger distraction. Mm-hmm. This one's so much bigger; it'll just make us forget about the Epstein stuff. But for me, it's not. I mean, that's just.
And I think it's sad, man. Like I think that the vast majority of people have already forgotten about the Epstein thing. That like nobody's fucking calling for the list anymore. Remember, everybody was outraged and where's the list? Show us the list, and as they should be. But that should be being said every single day by every single person until it's released. And it should have been released already. It's obviously never going to be released, or it would have been. So, yeah. And I mean, you're talking, like you said, heads of state, man. You're talking about like princes of countries and, presidents of countries.
Former presidents.
Yeah. Big deal. So,
Well, I mean, we'll just wait to see how quickly this one blows over. And like I said, until Diddy Epstein's himself, and then this whole thing gets swept under the rug, and whatever, his $1 billion gets dispersed out in a lawsuit to all his victims, and then bye-bye, that one's gone. And then we'll just move on to the next one at that point.
Yeah. I am very proud of, he, in court, he offered $50 million as collateral
For his bail.
To show that he was not going to run, which $50 million to him is a drop in the bucket. So and I was very proud to hear that the judge told him no.
Yeah, I mean, what's the chances that he's a flight risk? 100%. Okay, so you drop $50 million on bail. Now you still have $950 million left over, and what, a private island that you can escape to that nobody's ever going to find you? Like,
right?
I don't. And we talked about this before. Is like, you saw this freight train a mile down the track. You saw it coming. This big black train was coming for you. It's coming. It's coming. You saw the feds raid your house. You saw them raid your other house. You saw the boxes of evidence that they were pulling away. Like, you've got it. I mean, that's maybe how narcissistic he has to be to think that, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not going to touch me. I'm Diddy. I got all this money.
Well, not only I have all this money, but think about his list. That's probably why he thought he was untouchable, because if he's got video of judges and whoever, who knows, the politicians and whoever that he had at these parties, and Oprah's on the list now. You know what I mean? Like, he's got big, powerful people. So, and if he thought, man, I've got so and so on the inside, they're not going to let anything happen to me. I'm good. And fuck, since the 90s, he's been doing this shit, I'm certain.
Yeah.
Like, he's been a big fucking deal since the 90s. So he, in all fairness, he has good reason to believe he's untouchable, because he's been doing this for that long, and he's been untouchable.
As him, I think, that's where his intelligence failed him and his narcissism took over, because it was, 2-3 years ago with Epstein. All you had to do was look at what happened to that motherfucker and go, okay, well, and that's where your brain kicks in and goes, oh, shit, maybe I'm not so untouchable, but he's still, like, he'd been in that lifestyle for so long. Yeah. And nothing has ever happened, and he's been able to get away with everything. I think at that point, for me, if that was me, I would have snapped right out of it and go, yep, I'm going to my island. They ain't never going to find me. I'll have a couple of servants on that island. I'll live out my days peacefully. But like you said, he's got all these videotapes and he's got all this evidence against these people. Like, he'll be out. He'll be living on house arrest, in Miami or wherever the fuck he wants to live until his trial date. And then at that point, maybe, I don't know what you think is going to happen at the verdict, at the time of the verdict. Like, you've got to know 120 people aren't disappearing. So
yeah, and it's sad too. Like, well, back to the judge. I was very proud of the judge's decision. I'm super happy the judge is black, so that
they can't bring up the race.
They can't call. They can't say, oh, the judge is racist because it's a white judge and a black hip hop artist or whatever. Yeah. So that's awesome. And then, they were talking about witness tampering and like jury tampering and all that stuff, right? And this is where I think it blows my mind that they were talking about this, but they said that was like the main reason, like not only him being a flight risk, but they didn't want him like tampering with witnesses and people that are going to testify against him, obviously, and jurors come time for the trial. And I was like, man, that's kind of stupid. I'm really happy he's not going to get out on bail only because he can't run. But if you think that Sean Combs himself is going to show up to somebody's house,
make the phone calls, and make the threats,
like, that's not the way it's going to work. He's got an entire army of guys that he'll send to do whatever, talk to whoever, threaten whoever, scare whoever, and nobody will ever know about it. That's how that's going to happen. So, and that's definitely going to happen. That's
for sure.
Definitely a real threat, a real possibility. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be sitting in that judge's seat either. I mean, he's the one who's denying the bail every time. You know, that's got to be a real tough position. He's the top target.
Yeah.
He's the top target for any kind of tampering to go on.
Him and the DA.
Yeah.
Him and the DA.
Yeah, how much money does it take to buy them? But, I mean, again, like, you can't silence hundreds of voices. There's, you know, one case gets proven to not be true, or maybe they can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. What about the other 99? You know, it doesn't disappear.
And again, how deep does this conspiracy rabbit hole go? Like, if it's just, whoever's really pulling the strings behind the scenes says it's his time to go, then it's just his time to go. Yep. It doesn't matter what the fuck he says. So,
yeah, video cameras mysteriously stop working, and the jail guards, the DOs, take a couple of hours off and forget to check the cell.
So crazy. The fact that people really believe that, like, there was a malfunction in the cameras, and like
they didn't check his cell for like however many hours, and and also the ex-con or the ex-cop who's the con on whatever violent charges happens to get thrown in the cell with Epstein.
Right.
And he hung himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you say.
Yep, I believe that.
Whatever you say. So, yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see what's going to happen with it. At the same time, there are new wars happening. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And new threats of war. We're closer right now to going to war with Russia than we have been since the Cold War. So that's awesome.
Iran's another one.
Yep.
Launching 180 intercontinental ballistic missiles at Israel 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That was scary. I mean, I was just watching the videos of that, and you're looking at the lights in the sky, man. They sure are pretty, but they're coming right at us real quick.
Yep.
And
they're going to absolutely obliterate whatever they touch.
Yeah, yeah. And luckily, I mean, they've got a fantastic missile defense system out there, and they took out a lot of them, but some of them snuck through.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing anything on the death toll. I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't. And you know what's crazy is that the average person, like, they hear that, and it's very dismissible to the average human because they haven't experienced that, you know?
Yeah.
They don't know what that looks like when, you know, like, I've seen that in real life, like something actually explode in front of you in a combat zone. It's fucking wild, you know, It's really crazy. And the average person, and those ballistic missiles that they're sending, those are long-range ballistic missiles.
ICBMs.
Yeah, those are not...
They're not rockets.
They're not small. Yeah, like a rocket is a big deal. A hand grenade is a big deal. But those are fucking tinker toys compared to what we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's why they were so hard to intercept, because they're bigger, way faster, and that's why so many of them snuck through.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually intercepted the majority of them. Mm-hmm. But, you know, because a lot of people, if you guys don't know, there are, you know, ways to intercept these missiles with ground-to-air, you know, missiles and, you know, different, your own weapon system to not only, what's the word I want? To not only see it coming. What's the word?
Target it?
Target it afterwards. Intercept it, yes, but to see it coming. Whatever. My brain's not working. To see that, to identify that it's on its way.
Was that the word you were looking for?
No. To identify that it's on its way, and then, you know, via radar or whatever, and then lock onto it and be able to shoot it out of the sky before it hits wherever it's going, right? Because often you don't know where it's going. It could be going after your military bases. It could be going after your, you know, destroyers and battleships, if you have those. You know, it could be going after your political, you know, buildings and things like that. but you don't necessarily know. So often countries have these ground to air missiles that can track and lock onto this as as it's incoming, and then intercept it and blow it out of the sky. But there were, like you said, so many that were launched, and they're moving so quickly, and it's fucking hard to shoot a missile out of the sky. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just watching those videos, I mean, people, you say most people haven't witnessed or experienced any of that. And especially here in the United States, I mean, the most we've got to see in recent history is 9/11, where you see planes going at buildings, and that's terrifying enough. Now imagine like you're living in Tel Aviv and you're looking up at the sky, and you're seeing in the night sky, you're seeing these missiles come through the sky. And as well as I do, the ones that are scary aren't the ones that are moving. It's the one that you look up at and it's not moving because that fucker's coming right towards you. And those people, they witnessed that back in April, which wasn't nearly as large an attack as this one. They were saying that this was the largest missile attack in history on any nation.
Oh, really?
At anyone.
I didn't know that.
Some news outlet put that out yesterday, like at one point, the largest missile attack, which, I mean, 180 missiles is scary as hell.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it was fired, they say, at military targets, but I mean, look at the cities in Israel. Mm-hmm. They are cities with military installations around them. These missiles were coming right in towards the cities, and you were watching them explode on the horizon. It's, to be a citizen out there and just to be an average everyday person, I mean, that's terrifying. Mm-hmm. And we take it for granted out here because we live in such a great place, such a great country, and we have a great defense system. But I mean, Israel is under that threat 24/7. I mean, they've got Gaza on one side, they've got Iran on the other side, they've got Lebanon next to Gaza. They've got they're the only nation out there that's a Jewish nation, and you've got all these other Muslim countries around you that hate you. So, what do? They've got to protect themselves. They've got to defend themselves. But the bigger issue is right now we're staring, like you said, this is down the barrel of World War III at this point. I mean, you've got Israel attacking Gaza, invading Lebanon, Iran firing missiles at Israel. We've got Russia invading Ukraine. I mean, there's so much chaos in the world today.
And Russia came out openly and said that if we continue helping Ukraine, that they were going to take that as a direct act of war.
Yeah,
they were going to interpret that as a direct act of war. Obviously, meaning like, okay, that's what it says. Like NATO and if any act of war against our country justifies an act of war in return. So that's Putin saying, like, I'm going to fucking, like, we'll go to war. It's fine. Let's do it. And the scary thing is he's not going to go to war by himself. He's not fighting Ukraine and struggling and then going to fight us as well. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to employ China for sure. Like, there's no way that China and Russia are not constantly talking about the day that they get together to pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. The old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my enemy. And I mean, China has their own interest. Russia has their own interests. But if Russia is aiming at the U.S. and the U.S. is aiming at Russia, we know where China is going to fall, and we know where North Korea is going to fall. And you go back to World War II and World War I with the Axis and the Allies, and I mean those were devastating wars.
Yeah.
And they involved far fewer countries with far less weaponry than what we all possess right now. I mean, you can see right now, you can draw a piece of paper, 2 columns, and you can easily put which nation and which country is going to be on which side. It's going to be Russia, it's going to be China, North Korea, Iran, the other Middle Eastern nations. Shove them all on the left side. On the right side, you're going to have the U.S., you're going to have Germany, you'll have England. I mean, it's Israel. And how many of those nations actually have nuclear capabilities? They say, well, Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. I don't believe that for a second. For me, for the news outlets to put out that they don't have nuclear capabilities, I don't know why they would say that. I think you just need to assume, because if North Korea can do it and China can do it and Russia can do it, why can't Iran do it?
Right.
And just yesterday I was watching some of the UN summit. the briefings and the interviews on the Israeli missile barrage that came in from Iran, and all these nations demonizing and calling out Israel, like Iran and Syria, these Middle Eastern nations, like pointing the finger at Israel, and at the same time calling out the U.S. and saying that we've allowed this to happen. So you know where they all lie,
Right.
you know where the guns are all pointed at, and it leads for a really scary time in this world for my children and their children, and in the coming years, because there's so much instability, and there's no diplomatic solutions. Everybody's solution is to fire a rocket or fire a missile, try and kill your enemy. Like
Except, I'm going to point out your hat. You listeners, you can't see. So go to the YouTube channel so you can see it. But you got a Trump 2024. What's it say? Take America back.
Take America back. Yeah, I just wear this out in public to piss people off.
I like it. I like it, and I want to point out you wearing that hat in the conversation that we're having. Under the Trump administration is the only time we didn't have all this bullshit.
Yeah.
Trump administration is the only time in history of an American president where there were no new wars.
Yeah.
0 new wars under the Trump administration. New wars during Obama, new wars directly after Trump. But during the Trump administration, everybody was good, man. Like, money was good. Politics were good. Everybody was getting along. Everything was fine.
There was still some shit going on. I mean, there was still stuff in the Middle East going on, but it wasn't.
Yeah, but it was all old.
Yeah.
It was all old shit, and there was no bullshit. There was no new fucking, no new talks of wars. No new getting in the shit with each other.
Yeah, and this is where I got to step back and take off my political hat. I really don't try not to get too political, and I don't, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat. I'm just go with the party that makes sense or makes more sense, because it almost seems like every 4 years we're choosing the lesser of two evils. And I try to put myself in say Vladimir Putin's position or Xi Jinping's position. And you look at the United States and you look at the past 4 years, they had to be just chuckling and laughing at the leadership as you're watching this clown of a president stumble up the stairs to Air Force One, who can't put together a sentence, who's fumbling his words, falling off his bicycle, and they're just laughing. They're going, "Oh, now's our time." Every one of those things happened, and it's, "Oh, well, we'll show that you're a valid and that you're vigorous, and we'll put you on a bike." And he falls off the fucking bike. Like, come on, just stand there. And I think towards the end of his presidency, they were people are pointing out, is he taking a shit on stage?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at other world leaders like Xi Jinping and Putin, they look like they are vibrant, alive threats. They are people that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
And then you put Biden up there, and they take advantage. Okay, well, here goes Ukraine. Let's have that pop off. Hey, Iran, start your shit up now.
Yeah, because the U.S. isn't going to do shit about it.
Yeah, and I mean, and then now I've got to look at 2025. What happens when Kamala Harris gets elected as president? Do you think any other superpower, any other powerful nation is going to take us seriously? It's going to be 1,000 times worse. It's not going to be 100 times worse. It's going to be 1,000 times worse, because she's got to stand up on the world stage with all these other leaders who are fucking verifiable killers.
Yeah.
These guys they're killers, and they would eat a person like her for lunch. So who do you want back up on stage? I want the guy who was telling them, "Hey, don't fuck around. You'll find out." I want him back over there for 4 years. Give me some peace in my country. Give me some stability out here. Give me a little peace on the world stage. He's a great negotiator. And that's where all these wars end anyway. They end with negotiations and diplomacy. Mm-hmm. We fire a bunch of rockets.
Money.
Yeah, and money.
And money. As long as everybody's happy financially,
yeah,
everybody's good to go. And that is what he is the best at. As a matter of fact, he is the closest thing to what the nation was supposed to be, the way that it was supposed to work. The way that it was supposed to work was you had businessmen who understood money and understood the politics of people, right? And relationships and business were supposed to step into office, run and lead the country at what was the best for the country, for 4 years, 4-year time limit, so that you had enough time to get shit done, but not so much time that you would become corrupt.
Right.
And only if you proved yourself in that time were you then able to extend for another 4 years if everyone said so, right? When, when the votes actually used to fucking matter, because they don't anymore. But, like George Washington, for example, you know what I mean? Like the early politicians, the early presidents were not politicians.
Right.
They were businessmen, and they stepped in, they led from the front. They actually did shit. George Washington went and fought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could you imagine fucking
Yeah,
Kamala Harris going and fucking taking a gun? Anyway, and then they get out of the office, and the next person does it, and but they're all supposed to be relatively like-minded moving forward with the next thing. What's happened is that now our country has bred lifelong politicians, lifetime politicians that grew up learning about politics, learning about, all the corruption and all the whatever, and what is our agenda. And then that's all that they know. So a lifetime politician, a lifelong politician, is not what we're supposed to have in office. Trump is what we're supposed to have.
Yeah, Biden was a senator for 40 years, for 4 decades, and then over 4 decades, and then became the president. Like, how do you do that for your entire adult life? Act as a politician, and that's the problem. I mean, when you start dealing with like the senators and all, they need to have term limits. Like these people like Pelosi and Biden and all these other ones, Chuck Schumer, who are in politics for decades and get zero done for the country. And the only thing they get done is they pad their own pocketbooks by backdoor deals and insider trading. And then you're sitting there left with people who are worth, $300 million by the end of their term or the end of their lifetime, when, their salaries are only $150,000. It's all corruption. The whole system is corrupt. So they need to have term limits. And I mean, if we can do that for the president, he can have 4-year term and then maybe another 4-year term if the citizens choose it. Why don't we do that for Congress? I mean, we need to have a current cycle of people going through there, like you said, businessmen, people who are involved in their communities, people who have connections to their communities. I guess the most recent example of that is probably AOC, but she's a terrible example of somebody who is connected to her community. Yeah. Because she's just a puppet. She came from being a bartender of all things. She was a bartender in New York, and now all of a sudden she's worth $3 million after 4 years or however long she's been in there. But the problem is the system, right? She got brought into the system that was full of all these career-long politicians. So it's like, hey, this is the way we do things. So she falls right in line and just does exactly what she's told. So, it's the older, super old generation of politicians that are in there that have been in there their whole lives that they need to get out. You need, young blood, new blood in there. The system needs to change so that this country can change. Yeah.
It's, I think we talked about this on maybe not the last episode, but the episode before that. I said I'm a diehard Republican now. And it's funny, like you just said, you're not a Republican, not a Democrat. You're, whatever. Try to stay somewhere in the middle. That's been my stance forever. Until now. Yeah. It's been my stance pretty much forever. I've always been far more conservative. You know what I mean? But
sure,
I was willing to play in the gray area, but now what I see from the left is so disgusting and so disturbing to me that it's really hard for me to separate individuals. It's really hard for me to think that there is anybody good, especially because what we just talked about. You just come up in the system. You're just a lifelong Democrat, or you're a lifelong Republican. And I am by no means saying that Republicans are squeaky clean and there's no corruption and there's none of that. I'm not saying that.
The whole system.
But what I am saying is that some of the shit the Democrats say and stand for and do make no sense at all. And some of it is just downright evil, in my opinion. It's just not fucking okay.
I agree with you there.
And so it's hard for me now to separate. I can't fucking do it. I'm like, if you're a Democrat, I don't like you. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It's just,
Yeah, and I don't want it to be confusing. Like I say that I'm not Democrat and I'm not Republican. I 100% align with the values on the Republican side right now. But the thing is, the value system seems to change and move around all the time. Like the left has gone way far left, and they're fucking crazy right now. There's nothing that I agree with over there. So right now, my views are aligned with the Republicans. But when the Democrats are more centrist and more agreeable and more rational, I was like, oh, some of that stuff makes sense. And some of the far out Republican shit that I was like, oh, okay, that might be a little racist, and I never throw that term around, but you know, that was way back in the day. But now it's like the things that are said on the right side are right to me. The things that are said on the left are so far left and so far out of play that I can't agree with any of it. I mean, I sent you that video the other day on Instagram of like it was the trans performer with the little girl, this like 7-year-old girl, and she's dancing, and this fucking dude in a corset is sitting there and shelling out dollars
and a thong,
and all these adults are sitting at tables around this little 7-year-old girl, and she's dancing, and they're all clapping and cheering. I'm like, what the fuck? That is, first of all, that's not a right wing or Republican value, and secondly, to cheer this on, to sexualize this young girl like she's a stripper and start throwing dollar bills at her, to have this fucking creep of a dude sitting there in a thong and a corset committing that act, like, and that's okay. That's okay by the left-wing standards, and that is never going to be okay in my book. I will never agree or subscribe to that. Oh, but it's, you know, you need to be open-minded. Fuck it. No, my mind's closed to that one.
Yeah.
That one, I will never open. You will never get me to agree to sexualizing a 7-year-old girl performing for grown adults, and somebody wants to masquerade as a woman. It's just, it's not right, and I won't agree to it. So when I say I'm not Democrat or Republican, if that's what you assume as a Democrat, there's no fucking way I'm that. And I am not, I'm not open to those ideas. You know, I'm very much more conservative and more right-leaning. But you know, when they come back around in another decade or whatever, and they start moving their goalposts more towards the center and have more agreeable ideas and with newer things that may come up, you know, I may fall in line with some of those things, but I've always fallen more on the right side.
It's only gotten worse.
Yeah, it has.
In my time, it's only gotten worse. So I don't see the goalpost moving toward the 50-yard line. I see it moving the other way, further and further and further and further. I mean, they're getting a lot more bold. They're getting a lot more brazen. You know, like Biden's fucking ridiculous shit that he said. I mean, straight up was like, you know, their war against guns. You know, their war against the AR-15 military weapon of war bullshit. Mm-hmm. He said straight up, like, how are you going to stop us from coming and getting your guns? How are you going to stop the United States military? You'd need an F-15, blah, blah, blah. You know, and obviously United States citizens don't have an F-15. But most United States citizens are, well, on the left, they're all cheering it. But the average person is they let that one slip over their head. Like, an F-15 is a weapon of war, right? An F-15 is a weapon that we use as a country to defend our country. Yeah, we don't have that. Guess what we also wouldn't have if we let you take them? Our guns, right? Mm-hmm. So if you come in and you take my rifle, well, now I'm left with maybe it's legal to have handguns now. Okay, so you take my rifle. Now it's legal to have handguns until you come take that too. But what that means is that you then, as a country, as a government, you can come into anybody's house anytime you want and do any fucking thing you want because you know that we don't have the means to defend ourselves. The same as you know we don't have an F-15. He was telling on himself in what he said. Mm-hmm. And Kamala's fucking, her bullshit. I hate her, dude. I hate her so much. But we, you know, and she's obviously such a fucking pathological liar. She goes back and forth. But
Yeah.
She contradicts herself all the time, and it's all on tape. It's all, I mean,
Yeah,
you guys
you've
can
seen
look
the
it
split
up.
videos of that.
Yeah. But she straight up was like, yeah, she was talking about mandatory gun buybacks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't abide by the mandatory gun buybacks, then they'll come in your home. She said, I watched a video of her saying,
yeah.
well, I'll go in your home. We will go in your home and verify that you don't have that weapon in your home.
Yeah, it was along the lines of her saying that she was going to, well, there's nothing saying that we're not going to come into your house and make sure that you're being responsible with that weapon or some bullshit
Yeah.
like that. Like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
Yeah.
You know, I'm a red-blooded American, and you are not going to violate, first of all, my Fourth Amendment right, second of all, my Second Amendment right, so you're not coming anywhere near my fucking front
Or my
door.
First Amendment right.
Or my First Amendment
when
right.
I tell you to suck my dick while I fucking unload at the front door.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen those split screens where she does, well, I never, like, especially with the debate,
Yeah.
I never said I was going to ban fracking. And then, like, during the presidential campaign for Biden, well, yes, it's the first thing we're going to look at as banning fracking. And, oh, stop the lying. I never said I was going to take anybody's guns. And then it goes back to her talking about taking people's guns. It's like, bitch, which one are you choosing? Like,
and blatantly, like, not something that could be misconstrued or it's not misinformation. It's not like edited a certain way so it no, they're just legitimately her words. She's just a fucking liar.
Yeah.
And
well, she's a politician.
That's and I was gonna say most politicians are, they're fucking liars. But
the thing that bothers me the most, I mean, like, we're talking about like how far left that they're going. It's like, in my time, I've seen it's a pendulum, right? So it swings. Like, you feel like some of the laws, they get more liberal, and then they come back to the center and they become a little more conservative, and you do that swing. But it's almost like I don't know, have you ever seen that video with the guy, the science teacher, pulling back the bowling ball? Yeah. And he's got the person sitting against the fucking wall. Like, that's it's not a pendulum. It's like a bowling ball that they're pulling back, and they're ready to let that thing go and smash you right in the face. And it goes to just, I think, more the push towards socialism and communism in this country. Just taxing people to death, sending our tax dollars overseas, letting us struggle and scrape by on scraps. I just watched a video because we just had Hurricane Helene hit out here last week, and the destruction was just devastating. Asheville is almost completely wiped off the map. I mean, they're recovering hundreds of bodies out there. I think they're over 200 now. And I talked to one of my friends from DPS yesterday, and he said, "Yeah, we've got guys that went out there, search and rescue guys." He's like, they're recovering bodies and just leaving them. They're still on the search and rescue part, and not necessarily the recovery part. So they're just marking where these bodies are, and they're still moving on. And
so you guys understand what he's talking about. There's a period of time where after a natural disaster or some event happens, it could be war, it could be whatever, but there's search and rescue that happens. That's officially search and rescue is for like a number of days. It's like 4 days, 5 days. It depends on the situation. But 3, 4, 5 days, it's search and rescue.
Looking for live bodies. Looking for trapped.
Search for people, find them, bring them out. After that period of time, it turns into a recovery issue or a recovery mission, which is just recover bodies, account for who they are so their families know what happened to them.
Yeah, and the part of this that bothers me, and it's not that I'm going off topic here, but when I was talking about socialism and communism, is just that Biden was sitting in front of his desk the other day in a conference and talking about how the citizens are just going to have to donate, and we're going to have to all chip in, and this is all going to have to be like a combined effort. Whoa, wait a minute. So how many hundreds of billions of dollars have you fucking sent overseas to fight some proxy war for another country? How many billions and billions of dollars have you sent to Israel? And how many billions of dollars have you invested into not starting these wars, overseas, taking our tax dollars? And now when a natural disaster hits our communities out here, now the citizens are expected to pay for it? What the fuck is our government for? Why are you not handling that? That's your job. That's your job. It's not our job. Sure, I'll be more than happy to go out there and donate my time and help and rescue people and do whatever I can to be part of that effort. But you're already draining our pocketbooks and sending our money to people who don't need it.
And you know what's terrible about that? Like what you just said, to your point, a lot of people, I know a lot of people would love to go to Asheville and help, right? In any way they can, hand out bottles of water, fucking make sandwiches, whatever they could do just to help the community and the people that are suffering. But they can't, because they can't afford one single day off work because inflation and prices and cost of living is what it is right now. It's fucking ridiculous right now. And people just don't understand. They don't get how bad it is. Like, people know that it's bad, but they don't really like wrap their brain around why. Like Democrats, I don't understand. Like, how can you guys keep voting for the same people when it was so clearly different? Like, I just hate Donald Trump so much, I can't give him any credit for anything. Like, it's black and white. The economy was fucking good when he was in office. It's dog shit now.
Yeah, you had more money in your pocket. Everybody was generally happier that I knew. And I mean, to me, this last statement that he said, that was just such a slap in the face and a kick to the American public while we're down, saying we'll have to give financially. It's like, motherfucker, you sent last statistic I saw, which is probably false, it's probably way higher, $75 billion to Ukraine. How much is it going to cost to rebuild the community out here? It ain't going to be $75 billion. So why don't we keep that money here? And now you're talking about raising taxes even more if Kamala gets into office. Like, I don't understand the rationale there.
Well, and I'm sure that a huge part of it, I'm not only playing the politics game, but a huge part of that money gets recycled right back to us. It's a form of money laundering. Like, he writes a check for however many billions of dollars to the Ukraine, and then Ukraine sends him a check right back again. You know what I mean? For sure, that's fucking happening. So
yeah, but does that come into our communities? Because I don't think that any.
No, it goes into his fucking pocket.
That's my problem. Is that who supports the United States when we're in times of crisis?
Yeah, I'm not saying that Ukraine gives him a check back for the United States. I'm saying he gives him a check back to Joe fucking Biden or Jill Biden because he's too retarded to get to the fucking bank.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I hate him. I hate him. I hate Kamala. I can't stand him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got 32 days, 33
and
days.
I wish that voting fucking mattered. I wish I believed in my heart that voting mattered.
Yeah.
I hate them so much that I'm gonna vote.
Against your own principles?
Against my own, but like, I truly in my heart and soul, listen to me, guys. I don't believe that voting matters, okay? Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I think that voting used to matter. Mm-hmm. 1,000,000%. I think that absolutely it used to matter. But I think that somewhere along the line, we got to a point of these, lifelong politicians. They were brought up in it. They were whatever, and it's all about who you know and who you blow and all the things. And somewhere along the line, it didn't fucking matter anymore because, like, and if in general it matters, like, yeah, the actual numbers matter, they find a way to fuck it up. Like all of Florida, for example, the votes were just lost. But Biden getting in. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. Like, there were dead people voting for Biden. Weird,
There was an article I read 2 weeks ago about 747,000 votes or voter registrations in North Carolina being thrown out. Cool. They were just recently were taken off the record, I guess, for people who were going to be able to vote in the upcoming election, but now they're not. So whether those people were, like you said, the dead people, maybe people who weren't citizens of the country, whatever it was, 747,000 in one state were taken off the voter registration.
You're about to be taken off the voter registration as soon as they see this video with that fucking hat on your head.
Well, I know. Hey, man. Like I said, I wear it just to piss people off. But, you know, like when you're saying like voting doesn't matter, I mean, there's so many people that are involved in the influence of voting. When you look at Facebook and Zuckerberg and all the shit that he was talking about, how they were actually contacted and told to promote certain stories, to suppress other stories. Like, how do you do that if if this is supposed to be freedom of speech in the greatest country in the world, and you're not allowing people to speak and you're suppressing it? It's a giant psyop to get inside people's heads. Tell them what to believe, tell them what to think, and then hopefully they get out to the polls. And if they don't get out to the polls, or even if they do and that you don't like their vote, you manipulate the vote somehow. So, like, I mean, I don't believe much in voting either, just because of all the things that have recently come out that have been verified by the people that were involved.
It's a big fucking deal for Mark Zuckerberg to come out and admit that not only were they pressured to, but they did it.
Right.
They did censor. They did suppress. So... yeah, I don't know. It's also it's so weird, man. Like they have no moral compass. They have no stance. Everybody hated, people have very limited memories as well. Everybody hated Kamala Harris. Everybody, including Democrats. Everybody hated Kamala Harris. And then she became vice president.
Everybody still hated her.
She was not voted for. She has not been voted for. She's not she's running for president right now. And
they didn't have a primary where she was actually selected for the position. She was just thrust into that position because she was there. She fit the demographic.
She's a female of color.
Right.
And and she happens to be a color that they can switch and change depending on what they want, right? Yeah, man, and then she was all about Joe Biden, and Joe Biden is the greatest thing ever, and Bidenomics works, and fucking fuck off. And now, of course, she's blaming everything that's happened on Joe Biden. And she's like, you know, there's how many clips of her saying Bidenomics works. And Joe Biden's best thing, you know, since sliced bread. And then now that she's going to be running, she has to make it look like it was all Biden's fault.
Yeah.
Right? Well, bitch, you supported him this whole time.
Yeah, you agreed with all his policies. You didn't see you having any debates with him over it or telling him that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You were right there along his side.
Yeah. And not only you could maybe say, oh, well, I disagreed with it behind closed doors. Well, then stay fucking silent. You know, there are all these videos of you supporting, quote, Bidenomics and all of his decisions that he made, you know? So I don't know what to tell you, man.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just she sucks. That's my point. Like, I hate her and I hate Joe Biden. I can't stand either of them at all. Neither of them stand for anything except for themselves. And our country, and I'm passionate about how much I fucking despise them, because I actually I was in the war. You know what I mean? Like I actually fought for the country, and I as a young man experienced a turning point in our country's history. And whatever, people can have whatever feelings they want to have about Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, the two campaigns that I was a part of. Think whatever you want. Think weapons of mass destruction, no weapons of mass destruction. We went after Saddam for the wrong reasons. We went after him for the right reasons. Bin Laden, blah, blah. Whatever you want to think, whatever. What I'm talking about is my patriotism and my belief in this country, and what the country once was, and what it is now, and what I see now. And I always thought, you know, I have two sons. I was like, man, I'd love for my sons to join the military and gain all the knowledge and respect and discipline and motivation and, you know, work ethic and all the things that I got from the military. and that I believed in at one time. And our military now is a fucking joke.
It's terrible.
Absolutely a joke. During my time in the military, the biggest, craziest thing that happened as far as like culture and policy change was don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
You know, for a long time, those of you that don't know, there was a period of time in the United States military where you were not allowed to be homosexual in the military. And the reason for that, and also they didn't allow females in combat. Now, the reason for that was not because they thought less of females. It was not because they thought less of homosexuals. It was to ensure, like, your job is to fight.
Yeah, there's a mission.
There's
a goal.
mission and a goal, and disrupting that team energy, that team effort, that whatever, with relational bullshit, with sexual bullshit, with all these things that distract and take from the mission and the goal. What you need is a bunch of hard-nosed grinders, you know, like guys that'll fucking, like, hard pipe hitting motherfuckers that'll go out there and get the job done. Mm-hmm. And you and I as a team, for example, you're very strong mentally, physically, and you're very capable in your tactics and your knowledge and all your things, right? So am I. And I don't want to fuck you. So that makes it easy. You know what I mean? And people don't look at it from that level. They're just like, oh, you're a homophobe, you're a whatever. No, we have a fucking military that's supposed to go out and fight people. And if you have same-sex relationships fucking that up, then that messes things up. It has nothing to do with we're homophobic or don't want whatever. We don't want women. It's the same thing. Many men are heterosexual. You don't want a bunch of heterosexual dudes out there at combat fighting over drama and bullshit and scandal with the 3 chicks that are in the unit.
You need to be focused. You need to be rational. You need to stay out of your emotional brain, and you need to get the mission accomplished. And that's why, like, where you said it's like, don't ask, don't tell. I wish we can go back to those days where that was the biggest controversy. You know, I remember seeing that in the news all the time. Don't ask, don't tell. Oh, how are we going to settle this? It was like, well, that's great. Don't ask, don't tell. Like, I don't want to know about your sexuality, and you better not have a relationship inside of this unit right here, because it's going to disrupt it and it's going to cause problems. So, but we've gotten so far away from that now.
And it was still kind of like, it still was there. I liked don't ask, don't tell, because do your fucking job. Yeah. If you're gay, I don't care. I don't fucking care. Like, I'm not so oblivious to think that anybody that I served with wasn't gay.
Right.
Right. For sure they were. They just didn't talk about it.
Right.
And because they knew they'd lose their job. Mm-hmm. They didn't bring it up. They didn't say it. They didn't go after and try to start relationships inside of the unit because they knew it would get out and they knew that they would lose their job. Cool. So don't ask, don't tell does the same fucking thing. It does the same thing. I liked it because it was like, because personally, I don't give a shit. I don't care if you're gay. If you're gay, you're gay. I don't care. Do your fucking job, though. The same as I'm heterosexual, and if I'm in a unit with a female, it doesn't matter what she looks like. It doesn't matter who she is. It doesn't fucking matter. My job is my job. I'm not going to try to fuck the girl in my unit. You know what I mean? Now, not a lot of people have that control or that discipline or that whatever. That's their own issue, and they don't belong in that unit. You know what I mean? So,
but now we're at a point where it's just, we're overtly flaunting it in people's faces, where you have trans women, dudes dressed up as females in military uniform, talking about how diversity is the most important concept that we need to push forward in the military. The fuck it is.
Yeah.
Unity, uniformity, you know, achieving the mission goal. Those are the things that need to be focused on the same way that they've been focused on for thousands of years before, up until this point.
I am thoroughly embarrassed by the videos that I see of the United States military now. Like, thoroughly embarrassed. That one with, they're obviously in basic training. And basic training of all, like basic training. If you guys have not been to basic training, it's not as bad as selection. It's not as bad as like unit training. It's not as bad as certain things like that. But basic training at its core is every person in the United States military, it doesn't matter what branch you go to, they all have their own basic training or boot camp, right? A lot of you know it as boot camp. Basic training is designed at its core to break you down and then build you back up. Break you down meaning strip you of all the like worldly bullshit, the sense of entitlement, the lack of work ethic, the lack of discipline, the whatever that you got from being in mommy's house all this time, because many people that join the military join straight out of leaving mom and dad's house. And they break you down, they make it fucking miserable, and they force you to have discipline. They force you to have work ethic. They put you on a schedule, a routine, a whatever, and they ensure that you know that attention to detail is important, right? And they do that through little things that seem fucking stupid and really tedious and really ridiculous, like your fucking t-shirts have to be folded in a 6-inch fucking rectangle, right? Okay, well, that's for a reason. It's not because they give a fuck about your t-shirts. It's that they give a fuck that you give a fuck about the rules and that you're not going to skip over them and you're not going to go, oh, well, 7 inches is enough. That's close enough. Or 5.5 is close enough. No, bitch, we said a 6-inch rectangle. Well, that's really hard to do.
Yeah, it's never going to be right, and you need to get used to that in basic training. It's also made to weed out the individuals that shouldn't be there, that
are too weak to deal with it.
Yeah,
because guess what? You don't know. They don't know where you're going to go after that. You might go be a mechanic on an airplane. If you're going to be a mechanic on an airplane, attention to detail matters because human beings fly in that airplane. So on this component you're going to put in the airplane, it requires a washer and then a lock washer and then a grounding wire and then a bolt. That's the order and that's the way that it's supposed to go. I don't know. I'm just fucking saying words. But you go, oh man, where's that lock washer? Fuck, I don't know. Whatever. It's fine. It'll be fine with just the washer and the grounding wire and it's fine. It's in there. And then it's not fucking fine.
Yeah, your cargo door just falls off.
Yeah, it's not fucking fine. And even if it were to be fine, that's not the way that it's supposed to be done. There's a right way and a wrong way, and you're supposed to fucking do it the right way. And that's one example. Another example is combat. Break down your rifle. Fucking, I don't want to break down my rifle 7,000 fucking times in, the course of 6 weeks or what. I don't want to do that. It's a pain in the. I just cleaned my rifle this morning. I don't want to clean my rifle again. Well, guess what? When you go to Iraq, for example, there's a lot of sand and dirt. There's a lot of wind. You're going to be in combat. You're going to drop your rifle. I promise. Like if you think you're never going to fucking drop your rifle or it's never going to get dirty or it's never going to whatever, you're wrong. And when that happens, you better know how to break down your rifle and clean the fuck out of that thing, put it back together, and you better know how to do it quickly.
And you better not lose that little retaining pin, or forget to put your firing pin back in. Like, whoops. Yeah, there's very minute details to breaking down your rifle that you cannot skip over, and they need to be paid attention to, just like anything in life. And there comes a certain pride with stuff like that, knowing that you did it and you did it well and you do it the same way every time. But the basic training that they put people through these days and the individuals that get shoved through the system just are not the same caliber of individual that they were 25 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That one video, I know you and I have both seen it. It's like a gay dude, super soft, gay dude. And he's with like chicks, which why are they in the same unit? They just have co-ed fucking things now, or is he trans or what? I don't know. I don't have enough information, but I know that there's a gay guy with multiple females in a unit, and they're very clearly
matching.
Their uniforms aren't matching, and
uniforms.
And they're and they and he's like chanting some fucking shit like they're like, what does he say? It's like,
we are that platoon or some shit like
yeah,
that. Right? It's like,
yeah, we're that, yeah. And it's even that, it's like, that's so, like, you don't have an ego in basic training. You're not allowed to. Like, you're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to have a thought unless
Yeah.
it's the right one. And that's not the right one. But man, even just, in my day, like social media, you weren't posting shit on social media.
Right.
Certainly not in uniform, but period. Like with an opinion, you know what I mean? Again, I think when I was in, there was only MySpace.
yeah, dude, I was 96 to 02, and I think
Yeah.
MySpace was a thing towards like the early 2000s.
I was in, I joined in March of 2001, and 9/11 hit obviously in September of 2001, and I stayed in for 8 years. So, but yeah, in that time, I know that MySpace was, I wasn't really on it or anything, but I know people were. But I remember like somebody got in trouble for posting something about like the president or something like that, or like not voting for the president or something. It was something, whatever. And they got in a big fucking trouble. Like it wasn't a video in uniform. Now I'm seeing all over social media, man, like military members in uniform talking shit about the United States government.
Well, and you know how hard it was back then to post anything to social media because you didn't have a phone. I mean, everything was a dial-up connection, so you'd have to take a video somewhere, go and put it on your computer, get the dial-up connection going. I mean, you had to actually put some fucking effort in back then.
Yeah, you had to
now
really
it's
care.
Now you just live stream it as it's going on, and like, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah,
at least
dude.
back then they had some balls and they had some motivation. Now it's, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And just seeing some of the shit that like, I never expected to see videos of recruits in boot camp, taking videos in boot.
Yeah,
Fuck, dude.
that's wild.
We weren't allowed to use the phones until like week 4, 5.
I barely ate food, bro. I barely ate food. I was, I was the dorm chief in my flight. And the dorm chief, anybody that's been through Air Force basic training, you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. But the whole flight lines up in a straight line at the chow hall. And there's this like half wall. The dorm chief stands there at attention and watches his or her flight go through. And the dorm chief is the last one. So like in the fucking hierarchy, in the chain of command or whatever, you have your TI. We called them TIs, training instructors, and then the dorm chief. So if your TI was gone for the day or the night or whatever the fuck, the dorm chief was in charge, right? And then you had 4 element leaders underneath the dorm chief, and then the rest of your flight. And so I was like the second day in basic training, I was assigned the dorm chief. So I'm the dorm chief. I'm standing there at attention. I watch everybody go through, and we had what's called the snake pit. So each in our chow hall, you had round tables, and there were 4 chairs at every table. And the way it would work is everybody would go through, get your food, and you'd go and stand at the next available seat. So if there were 4 seats taken, you would go to the next table, and you would just stand at one of the seats until all 4 things were there. You're holding your tray, and then everybody sits down at the same time, and then you start eating, right? Well, the rule that was given to me, and I don't know if this was actually, you guys fucking leave it in the comments and let me know, because I'm curious if I just am the only one that got fucked here. But
Probably.
My dorm or my TI told me you're going to be done eating. So I went last. I got my food last, and I sat at a different table. I sat by myself so that I could watch all of my flight. But that also set me apart, right? So I'm sitting at a table by myself watching everybody. So the entire the snake pit are all the TIs. Mm-hmm. They're over there eating, doing whatever they want, enjoying life. And like wrecking people as they eat. Just fucking, dude, people would like choke all the time because they'd be like, screaming at them and like asking them questions and then forcing you to eat. You had to eat very, very quickly.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the rule. Like, eat fucking fast. You're not here to enjoy it. You're here to just get calories in. Well, the rule that was given to me was I would sit down last, but I had to be done eating before the last 3 tables were done. So think about that. Like, these guys, 4 people would sit or stand around, sit down. They're eating. Let's say it's the 3rd table, right? Next table, they fill up. They're eating. Next table, they're eating before I ever even got there.
Right.
So I had to fucking smash food as fast as possible, dude. And it's probably why I have like a fucking choking issue now when I eat food. I have to like to really take my time. But anyway, I had to smash food so fast, dude. And I often would not finish my food. And you don't get a lot of food in basic anyway. It's not a lot. Fun fact, I'm 190, 195 pounds right now. I was 135 when I graduated basic training.
Gross,
dude. I got wicked sick in the fourth week. I got really, really, really sick. And
how long is Air Force basic? 8 weeks?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Figures.
Yeah. Yeah, 6 weeks. And then obviously your technical school, depending on what your job is after that, those vary, and those are longer than everybody else's because we're smarter than everybody else.
That's what you like to think. You still came out at 135 pounds because you couldn't figure out how to eat quicker.
No, I did. So I figured out I couldn't physically or eat quicker. So I talked to my guys. I was like, you're going to slow the fuck down eating. Like, I'm telling you right now, like I don't care if he's standing over your shoulder, fucking screaming at you, whatever. Like, you guys need to slow the fuck down or I'm going to die, But still, I mean, they're just up your ass, dude. I don't know what it was like in the Army, but
pretty much better, harder, longer.
Yeah.
That's what they said with Diddy too.
Too soon?
No, they need to keep coming. No, Army was like, dude, I had one funny story from the Army that I remember when you're talking about food. We were out doing our bivouac training out in the field, doing our field exercises and everything. And typically we'd have MREs for meals, but every once in a while they'd come out and they'd have like a hot food or hot breakfast, which was a treat because like you've eaten the eggs out of the MREs.
Yeah, they're terrible.
They are.
Chili Mac is the only, and I stand by this and I'll die by this. Hit me in the comments if you disagree or whatever. But Chili Mac is not only the best MRE, it's the only edible MRE.
You didn't like the tuna casserole? I mean,
no, dude.
No. I like the only pleasure for me was getting like the peanut butter and the crackers in there. It's like, I'll get something kind of sweet.
Dude, did you ever get the Skittles?
No.
I mean, it was tiny.
That's an Air Force thing.
No, MREs are MREs. That's
a fucking Air Force. There were no Skittles ever in
there was
Army MRE.
And there was a pancake. A pound cake. Did you ever get the pound cake?
Yeah, the pound cake. But that was kind of like dry. But
bro, there's Skittles. I only came across that fucking golden nugget maybe twice my entire career, and I ate MREs a lot. We deployed, and I ate fucking MREs a lot. So
no, I just remember being out in the field one day, and we actually got hot breakfast, and that was kind of nice. I mean, we're all sitting in the dirt, and waking up at I had a couple funny stories from basic now that I'm thinking about it, but during that bivouac training, we're all sitting down, and of course the drill sergeants are walking around and they're screaming at us, hurry up, eat your food, get your face canted 45 degrees down to that plate and shove that food in your mouth, and screaming and yelling. We're like, oh shit, and they said, all right, 15 seconds, and I'm fucking done, and like, get your food over here. And if you're not done, they don't care. Like, get your food over in these bins right now. And we're all throwing our food out, fucking run over there, throw my food out. And the guy right behind me, he didn't make it in time. The drill sergeant just steps right in front of the trash can, and he looks right at him. He goes, pack it in your pocket. Dude, we had soupy eggs and fucking grits right in his cargo pockets, just soupy eggs all day long. Dude. I mean, he said that, and he just like looked at him. His jaw dropped, and I was behind him, and I just because I didn't think he was serious. And sure as shit, man, fucking eggs and whatever else he had went in his pockets all day long. And I think we were out there for like 2 more days. It was disgusting.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, army basic training was interesting. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, because I just kept my head low, did my job, shut my mouth, made sure my uniforms were in regs, and did what I was supposed to. And that's pretty much the game, man. I mean, any basic training.
Yeah, I enjoyed basic training too. Aside from the eating part and aside from, losing that much weight, and I got sick because I lost so much weight, but which of course I'm a fucking man, so I just powered through. Like I wasn't like I should have gone to sick hall, you know what I mean? But I wasn't because I wasn't going to get recycled for medical,
Yeah.
Fuck that. So, but yeah, because I was dorm chief, I took advantage of that shit. So I just went around and I was like, guys, I sat everybody down one night. You're getting fucking just reamed constantly on inspections and you're getting inspected every day. And we had what's called blue ropes. So the blue rope is, your TI, wears a trainer hat, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the blue ropes, it's a trainer hat, but with a blue rope on it that signifies that they're basically the TI's bosses, right? And it's teaching the chain of command and all that. Okay. Well, the blue rope inspections were far fucking worse than your own TI inspecting. And your own TI inspecting is fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. But he's getting you ready for the blue rope inspections because they're going to be so much fucking worse. And the blue rope inspections, it'd be like 3 or 4 of them would come in at a time and just fucking decimate your dorm. And so I was like, and you had guys that just couldn't fucking get it together, you know what I mean? And everybody was like good at certain shit, right? Like there'd be like one guy or a couple guys that were just super fucking good at shining boots. There were a couple guys that really had it down on like making beds, the hospital corners, or somebody be really good at the 6-inch folded t-shirt, right? Mm-hmm. And so I created in our flight, a like an assembly line. I was like, dude, so-and-so's good at shirts. Everybody give him your fucking shirts. That'll be his job. Mm-hmm. He'll do everybody's shirts. Then everybody's shit will be the same and it'll all be within regs. Meanwhile, so-and-so over here is doing boots and so-and-so over here is doing whatever. Your fucking name and the way we did it was the first initial of your last name and the last 4 of your social is on all your fucking gear. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, whose boots are whose fucking underwear is whose, whatever. So that's what I started in my flight. And we started fucking killing inspections, right? Now they still are going to fuck your shit up. Yeah. But we started killing inspections. And it was funny. We had 3 blue rope inspections and I never got any gigs, right? I never got any gigs or like demerits, right? Like negative marks. And I remember we had the last blue rope inspection, and I think somebody informed them of like what I did, which they weren't mad about it. Like that's smart. That's an efficient way to do it. Nobody said we couldn't do that. And in my brain, it was efficient. You guys want everybody's shit to be within regs, everybody's shit to be good. I found a way to do that, right? And everybody's happy. So, but it kind of beat the system a little bit. Mm-hmm. So our last blue rope inspection, dude, I'll never forget. We came in, and so blue rope inspection, they'd be in there, and they'd fucking, like, you're there, and they're inspecting everything and whatever. And then we had a blue rope inspection, and they found no gigs. They didn't find shit, right? Everything was good. Right on. We went out for PT. Right after that, we came back in and only my shit was destroyed. And I mean, dude, they took the locker. Like the locker was across the fucking room. Like I think 2 of them picked it up and just fucking catapulted it across the room. All my shit is everywhere. My bed was like upside down on another bed. It was crazy. And I was like, okay. So, and we spent fucking, as a team, we spent the rest of the day fixing everybody's shit because they ruined everybody else's shit in ruining mine,
Yeah.
But it was a good thing though. It was like,
It's attention to detail. It's like,
Yeah.
and making sure you're doing shit right. And also testing your mental stability and testing your mental
Yeah.
gumption. Like, okay, you're going to deal with this? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes shit goes sideways in life and you have no control over it. Like you were doing shit right. And they're like, well, fuck it. No, he's not.
Yeah.
And just to see how you're going to handle it.
Are you going to break?
Are you going to be a mentally tough individual?
Dude.
I mean, and that's what they do. They're trained professionals at fucking up people's shit.
Fucking up your mind. Yeah. Weems. Are you out there? Weems. Dude, I'll never forget this guy's name, and I'll never forget this guy. He was recycled during the first blue rope inspection that we had. He was already a problem. He was falling apart during the TI inspections. But from my state, you're standing at attention during the blue rope inspection, right in front of your locker, and off to my right on the far end, it's like a long rectangle, our dorm. And off to the right, I can only see it out of the corner of my eye, but I can see it, right? And I'm not going to like look and fuck myself up. But I can see what's happening, and I can certainly hear what's happening. Like people in Connecticut could fucking hear what was happening. Basic training in Air Forces in Texas, by the way. So he starts getting fucking ripped apart by one blue rope, and it catches the attention of another blue rope and another blue rope. And I don't know what his responses are. Okay. I can't hear his responses. I can only hear the blue ropes. I don't know what his responses are, but they are fucking ripping him apart, dude. And I'm like, what is happening stop doing whatever you're doing, right? At one point, he just slumps. He's got 4 blue ropes around him in a very tight fucking, like they would talk to you and often like, the brim of their hats fucking hitting you in the face and whatever.
Feel the spit on your cheek.
Oh yeah, dip spit all on your fucking face. Yeah, so that's what's happening to him times 4, right? And I watch him literally just slump his whole body down. So he just like slides his back against the locker, slides down till his butt hits the ground, and then he crosses his feet Indian style, like crisscross applesauce, right? Mm-hmm. And his head is just down and he's sobbing. Dude, oh my God, never in my life. I'm watching this happen and I'm like, oh my God, dude, like I just watched this grown man break mentally. I say grown man, the guy was probably fucking 20 or something. But, grown enough. Yeah. I was 18. Fuck. And, yeah, dude, I just watched him slump. He gets recycled, and I just never, ever saw him again. I never heard of him again. And I don't know if he got recycled back to like 0 week or if,
it's typically the way it goes. Like you don't get put back in at the same week, do you?
No. If you get recycled,
you're starting over.
Yeah, you're starting over, and
I was going to say maybe the Air Force is a little different that way.
No. Like you're starting over, but and you only get like, I think that it depends on why. Like if you were recycled medically, maybe you get a couple of those. You know what I mean? Like if it was out of your control or whatever. But if it's like you're weak mentally or whatever,
proficiency or something,
they might give you one. Or like you got too many gigs or something like that. They might give you one, and then you fuck up again, and you're done. You're out. But basic was crazy.
Yeah, Jeff Acord, if you're out there, give a shout out. He was my battle buddy in basic training.
Oh, nice.
I'll give you this story. Again, during bivouac training, they come around. You're getting 3-4 hours of sleep a night or whatever, and we turned in for the night. Me and him are in our little A tents, and drill sergeants come around early in the morning, waking everybody up. Or actually, not the drill sergeant. Drill sergeant woke up the platoon leader. Platoon leader goes around and wakes up the squad leader. Squad leader goes around, wakes up all their squad. Squad leader is coming around, waking up the squad. got my tent up, right? And I get up and I go to tap Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Oh, shit. Jeff's not here. It's 4:00 in the morning.
Oh,
the
shit.
sun's not up. We're out in the middle of the fucking woods in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And it's funny because Fort Leonard Wood is called, commonly known as Fort Lost in the Woods. Because that's all it is fucking woods and whatever.
Nav training and all that.
Yeah, nighttime nav training, dude. It's a fucking, it was terrible. Huge bugs. I mean, just the massive bugs that they had out there. But back to that morning, 4:00 in the morning, I'm tapping. Jeff's not there. Shit, well, I got to get out to my foxhole and guard my position, right? So,
right.
And, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing any dude's got to do is take a fucking leak, right?
Sure.
And that's the point. Like, hey, you're going to watch the foxhole. I'm going to go take a piss. I'll come back. We'll switch off, whatever. So I get out in the foxhole, and I'm sitting there with my M16 and I'm guarding my little position, and the squad leader's coming around and he's taking accountability, head count. And I'm like, hey, I don't even know what my squad leader's name was at that point. I was like, hey, fucking a cord is missing.
Yeah.
He's like, because he's running by and he's going through each position. He's running by and he fucking stops and turns. What do you mean he's missing? I was like, he's not in the tent. I don't know where he's at. He's like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I was like, well, go report it to the platoon leader. Let him know because he's not here. I don't know. I'm thinking like the drill sergeants fucking snatched him up in the middle of the night and they're fucking holding him hostage or some shit. Like fucking with me. And at this point, I'm like dying. I have got to take a piss so bad. And I just I had to roll to the side and just fucking whip it out in the foxhole and go and just stay there. So then they call everybody for formation and, we all get into formation. And all the squad leaders are giving their count, and they get to my squad, and my battle buddy's missing. My platoon is down one person. Fucking, of course, drill sergeant.
Your fucking fault.
My fault because I don't know where the fuck he is. Like, I don't know if they shot me with a fucking tranq dart in the middle of the night and stole him, whatever. So of course I draw all the drill sergeant's attention.
Yeah.
And they're all up in my face.
That's the worst, dude.
Private, where the fuck is your battle buddy? Where's he at? Drill sergeant, I don't know. I don't know. I woke up and he was gone. What do you mean you don't know? You don't keep accountability of your battle buddy? Blah, blah, blah. Just tearing me up. I'm like, holy shit, dude. So we're running through formation and drill sergeants kind of dissipate for a minute and they go back up and they're talking to the platoon leader who's also a private. And as we're sitting there, the sun's starting to come up. And here comes this body just out of the woods. Fucking dirty.
Fucking Jeff.
just dirty, scratched up, messed up. His fucking arms are bleeding and shit. And he walks up, takes a spot in the platoon right next to me. And the drill sergeant laser eyes right on him. What the fuck? Where did you... And just tearing him up. And I'm like, oh, thank God it's not me this time. And he's like, drill sergeant, I don't know where I was. I was out by a lake somewhere. A lake, Private? He's like, that lake is 3 miles away. He's like, I woke up last night to go to the bathroom, drill sergeant, and I could not get back. He was gone for like the whole night in the woods.
Trying to find his way back.
Had to wait for the sun to come up. He was at a lake 3 fucking miles away. And I know they were they were acting like they were pissed and screaming. I know they were laughing their asses off because I'm laughing my ass off on the inside. Of course, I was terrified because I had no fucking clue where he was. And to see him come back. Oh, that was the other funny part. As he came back, he was coming back, and your tents are set up and you've got wires going down to the ground to stake them into the ground. That's how we knew he came back, because as he was coming back, he hit that fucking wire and stumbled and fell over the wire and drew everybody's attention. Like, I wanted to look, and that became his name. It was Jeff, and we made a joke. Oh, his middle name is Tripped Over a Cord because his last name was a cord. Jeff. Yeah, good old Jeff, man.
Fucking Jeff.
He was a redneck, little scrawny guy, but he was a good dude, man. But just some funny stories like you get from basic training. But a guy like that, he made it through basic training. He wasn't a heavy pipe hitting dude, hardcore, but he had determination. He found himself in a very compromising position. in the middle of lost in the woods
Yeah.
by a lake, and he fucking got back. So I mean, I give him credit for what it's worth.
It probably wasn't the sun coming up. He was probably the DIs screaming at you that he heard and was like, "Oh, just follow the sound of my buddy getting fucking reamed."
Yeah, do I go back or I just keep going home?
Yeah,
You know? 'Cause
just keep going that way. Oh man,
good times, man.
yeah, I got some crazy stories from basic, from all the other trainings, and then from definitely from active duty. You know, from primary duty bases and all that stuff, and deployments. Man, we got some crazy ones. We'll go over them in other episodes.
Yeah, we should hit some stories like from your time overseas, and maybe some of my stories from being a cop out here. We can hit some of those, and I mean, I've got memories, and I know you do, that are just as vivid as they were yesterday.
Yeah, dude, some of them I will never, ever, ever forget, and it's stuff you don't think about, right? Like Weems, like I just told you, or Jeff tripped over a cord, like. You don't think about that ever. I haven't thought about Weems in fucking years, bro. But the thought just came back to me, and it's like it happened yesterday, man.
Yep.
Yeah, and some of those guys, I still keep up with them, man. Like they reach out. Ever since the show came out, like a lot of guys that I served with came out and hit me up or whatever. Like, bro, I saw you on TV. Like that's fucking that's cool. Whatever.
Bail jumpers, you mean?
Yeah, okay. Bail jumpers. Those of you that don't know, we were on a show on Investigation Discovery on the Discovery Channel, but Investigation Discovery, what's the difference? They've got like it's the Discovery Channel is the network, but they have different like subsections. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the differences are.
But anyway, Investigation Discovery, and the show is called Bail Jumpers. We were on that, and they're actually working on a spinoff right now. That we're going to be filming here,
hopefully
relatively shortly. Yeah, soon. So you guys keep an eye out for that. What else before we wrap it up? Oh, we were talking about food in the military. We're both drinking out of our American Heroes Mission barbecue cups.
Yeah, that's good barbecue.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have a Mission barbecue wherever you live, if you're in the United States, but hear about a Mission barbecue, you should go hit them up. It's not only fucking delicious barbecue, but they are very, very patriotic just as a company, and the individuals that work for Mission Barbecue are all fucking awesome. I've been friends with them for a long, long time. I've been here for 10 years and been friends with all those guys for that entire time. So delicious food, and they give back to veterans and first responders and stuff like that. Yep. Like these cups, for example, it's a thing that they do. You go and buy your food, and then you like upgrade to this cup or whatever, and proceeds go to firefighters and cops and paramedics and stuff like that. They run different things for different ones. I have a red one in the other room that's for firefighters. I think that one's police officers. This one's military.
Yeah, support the cause. Go out there, get some good food at the same time. I mean, was it that apple? What's that dessert they have? That apple pie?
Dude, all of them are good. They have that like apple crumble thing.
Yeah.
They've got a peach cobbler. They do a strawberry shortcake. All of them are so good. And those are all seasonal. They switch through them. But dude, the brownie, like I'm such a fat kid for their brownies. It's so fucking good.
It's killer. Yeah. Anyway. The mac and cheese that they got, that's amazing. And the barbecue's good.
Yeah, it's all good. I haven't had one thing there I didn't
can't
like.
Complain.
Yeah. Yep. So, man, that was a lot to talk about between Diddy and his fucking bullshit, Hollywood and celebrities and their nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Putin and Israel.
Israel.
Kamala.
Camel toe.
And Biden. And, that's what I was going to say earlier when we were talking about Biden. I just saw a clip of, he's so fucking stupid. He doesn't even realize what he's saying. They were at a function raising money for AIDS, right? Elton John is there as like the headlining whatever. And I watched this clip, dude. Biden puts his arm around Elton John, and the way he words it, he goes, "Yeah, just so you guys all know, it's his fault that that we had to raise so much money for AIDS."
Oh God! Of course he did.
Oh my God, dude! And Elton John, of course, like he's a celebrity and a fucking like has a good head on his shoulders, whatever. So he just starts clapping and like, yeah, let's get everybody like he said a good thing, you know. Let's not let the awkwardness of this stand out. So.
Yeah. And just so all the listeners are aware, and anybody who might be spying in on this conversation, that you are a very healthy 42-year-old individual, soon to be 42-year-old, with no suicidal ideations at all.
Yes.
You drive with your seatbelt at all times. You
Correct.
eat healthy. Your blood work and panels are all within the normal limits. And
the brakes on my car are good.
Brakes on your car are good, and you want to continue living a happy and healthy life.
Yes.
And there are no chances whatsoever that you would jeopardize that.
Yeah. Is that because I said I hate Biden and Harris?
And as for myself, I subscribe to all those views as well.
Yeah.
And I am very happy, healthy, and have no suicidal ideations. And my car is in fantastic shape, and I eat a very healthy diet.
We keep them maintained, and everything is good. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is a fun episode, as always. We're going to be kicking these out at least once a week. We're shooting for twice a week. So the channel's growing, the community's growing. It's awesome. Go check us out on all the things, Instagram and all the stuff. Yeah, until next time, you only have one life, guys. Make it an alpha life.